Every town has a ghost story that's been passed down through the generations. But what if those legends were true? My name is Miranda Young, and I'm the Ghost Biker. Hey, good evening, everyone. You are here watching the Ghost Biker Garage. I'm your host, the Ghost Biker, and we have a great show for this week. If you tuned in last week, you saw that I had the wonderful and legendary Steve Stockton on, and we talked about missing persons in the national forests. Also talked about his upcoming books that he's got going on, and talked about all things cryptid too. So it was just a great conversation. I know he's from not too far from where I am right now here in East Tennessee, and it's always good to talk to a fellow East Tennessean from the area, share different folklore and legends and stuff. It was a great show. If you missed it, I highly encourage you to go back and check out Steve, because you want to talk about a Renaissance man. This guy's got so much going on. And if you've not checked out his books, you definitely want to do that. But welcome to the show. Here we are, the first week of June, and got a whole lot going on. We're working, getting things ready to actually be out in the Ghost Biker Garage, hoping to actually be out in that new studio coming up here a little bit later this month. Fingers crossed that things go as planned. But for now, we are here. If you watched the earlier show that we had over at the historic Scott County Jail, we had Todd and Leanne Eskew talking about the legendary Bell Witch Cave and the Bell Witch hauntings. That was such a fun show. And if you guys know Todd and Leanne from the Black Wolf Paranormal, they're just a great group. And so again, highly encourage you to check that out as well. I know some of you folks over in the chat room were over there a little bit earlier. So I really appreciate and thank you all so much for joining us. Now, want to take a few minutes before we get to tonight's guest and talk a little bit about the Ghost Biker motorcycle ride that we had last weekend. We partnered with the historic Scott County Jail as well as the historic R.M. Brooks General Store there in Rugby, Tennessee. And we hosted a 98-mile motorcycle ride along the Cumberland Plateau, which we called Rolling Through History, a museum and a ride that we were hosting. And I just wanted to kind of show a few pictures from that. We did post those last night, and I encourage you guys to go and check out the album, but just want to talk just a few minutes about it because this was our first ride of the season. And if you've done any of our Ghost Biker motorcycle rides or rides that we have at the historic Scott County Jail, you're in for a treat because we've got some really special things going on and some really special partnerships that we're doing with other historical locations here in the area. But we ended up having 11 bikes on the motorcycle ride, had 14 people. And these folks, I was so impressed because we had folks coming from all over. They came from Central Alabama. A couple of the people I know one had like a 4-hour motorcycle ride to get up to our meeting spot. And we had them from all over here in East and Middle Tennessee. We had folks from Crossville, folks from Genesis Road area. We had a local guy from Oneida up there. And then also, oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank, Crossville, just all over East Tennessee. And so, and again, people who had several hours to come for a ride, they rode up and then they joined us on our 98-mile motorcycle ride. But it was really cool because we met in Harriman, Tennessee, rode up to the historic R.M. Brooks store where we had lunch, and they were doing their Biker Appreciation Day. They had giveaways, live music, and of course, the best bologna sandwiches in East Tennessee. But we were there for about an hour, and then we headed on through the Big South Fork. Just beautiful, beautiful ride. Perfect day for it. It was in the upper 60s. Great weather. The weather held out up until we had our tour. And then our final stop was at the historic Scott County Jail there, where we did a tour of the jail. My business partner, Dr. Christy Sumner, and I tag teamed on that one and took people through and showed them and told them some different stories from the jail. So, it was a great ride, and we really appreciate everybody that joined us on the tour. And we hope that you will plan to join us on one of our other motorcycle rides that we're going to be having throughout the summer. We hope to at least do one a month, if not a couple more. But we are doing a couple things that are unique that they don't typically do on motorcycle rides that we'll be starting on our next ride. And so we'll be making some announcements about that, but it's going to make these tours really, really special. So stay tuned for that information. And if you did not get the opportunity to join us on this one, we hope you will plan to join us on one of the mini tours that we have. Again, these are probably going to run through the summer and probably going to end maybe around maybe October, I think, as long as riding season is good. We do have the ride there in Kentucky planned here for October, the Ghost Biker weekend, and hopefully a couple Harley events going on. So anyways, hope you all will plan to join us for that. But stay tuned for more information, because we are just solidifying our partnerships with some of the other museums. All the funds that the cost for the tickets and stuff goes to fund these locations for the restoration and preservation of our partners. So it's a really cool thing. But also, we do have some tickets still available for our tours that we've got this weekend at Historic Rugby, as well as the Historic Scott County Jail. We're offering those Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights. We've got 2 tours running at Rugby, 1 at the jail, and then, of course, we're open for our daytime tours as well, all weekend long. So, and then, of course, our escape room. So I hope that you all will definitely come and join us for that. We do sell tickets for those tours up until 4 p.m. Eastern time every day. Or up till the day of the tour. We don't sell tickets at tour time, but we do it up until 4 p.m. that day. So if you have any questions or anything at all, you can go on and book those spots at historieshighwayshaunts.com, as well as historicscottcojail.com. You can go on there and go to the rugby page as well as the jail page and get your tickets. Just looking over here at the comments right quick before we bring tonight's guest on, just want to say hello right quick to Miss Nancy Weems. I hope you're doing well. And of course, the Professional Paranormal Research. Hello to you guys. And Miss Susan Purcell from down there in southeastern Tennessee. And hey, from Fort Knox. Love it. Love it. Got folks all over here. Mr. Daryl Paulette from the Clover Hill Village. Hello. Nancy asks, did the bikers have any experiences? This was not a haunted ride. We are going to have some different haunted tours, but this is definitely wasn't a haunted ride. But some of the bikers did share some of their experiences that they have had at some different rides and locations they've been on. It looks like, thank you, James Brady. It looks like we're having some issues with the Facebook page. For some reason, it looks like it's not joining on Facebook, which is kind of strange. I'll see once I get the guest on here. I'm going to see if I can maybe try to fix that situation. Looks like it's only broadcasting on YouTube. Thank you for bringing that to my attention, James. And hello to Miss Sonia Thompson and Addie Cook. Thank you all so much for tuning in. So I'm going to go ahead, bring on tonight's guest, and see if I can figure out what's going on with Facebook here. It had the thing on. We shared it out in about 40 different groups, so I'm not really sure, but I'm going to go ahead and welcome my guest because we've got a lot of really great things to talk about. So if you will, help me in welcoming Miss Maria Schmidt from Mysterious Adventures Tours. How are you, Miss Maria?
Oh, Miranda, I am spectacular. And just because I'm here, it's been a long, long overdue meetup, hasn't it?
It absolutely has.
We knew each other digitally, but not face to face. And it took, 8 years? No,
Yeah, that
something.
sounds
No,
about
yeah,
right. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm happy that hopefully the next encounter won't be taking that long. So thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for taking the time to come on tonight. I know you're a very busy lady.
We all are, aren't we? Because
We absolutely are.
we're girls. Girls are really busy.
That's right.
Uh-huh.
Well, if you will, while I see what's going on with Facebook, because it looks like Facebook's having some issues here, I'm going to try to get that connected. But if you would, please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about how you got into this unique venture that you're in.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I'm Maria Schmidt, as Miranda introduced me as. I'm with a company called Mysterious Adventures Tours. And basically, we run tours around the world. We don't bike around, although I like that idea as being maybe an intriguing concept for one of my future tours. But
Nice.
uh, but essentially, go into the most esoteric and mysterious places around the world, like Ireland and Scotland and oh my gosh, Romania, just incredible places. And these are like little mini ghost tours, like a lot of people are used to doing. But if you expand it over 9, 10, 11 days, and just with the most wonderful, magical people, because you're surrounded by folks that are like minded, usually, but not always, led by an ambassador that is noted and respected in the field. So I've been doing that now we just celebrated our fourth anniversary. Two,
Wow.
two of those chunky years were pandemic. So officially, only about 2.5 years we've been up and running with our concept, and it's done really, really well. We actually are the ones that kind of coined paranormal tourism. There are others that kind of dip into it every so often. We
Hmm.
dedicate ourselves 110% to it. And you did ask, how did I get there? It started a long time ago. Of course, most people, when they're 64 years old, and I retired as a registered nurse, would not even think about starting a business like this. But there's Maria, and I really wanted to finally get into a part of my life that I truly enjoy doing. And even though nursing was extremely satisfying for me, and I got a whole lot of experiences as a nurse, especially when I work with end of life, but I wanted to do something a little bit offbeat, a little bit different. And sort of all the work I've done with the paranormal field has
Yes.
led me to this portal, I will call. So as a registered nurse, I had lots of encounters. In fact, a lot of the nurses do join our tours because they all are very familiarized with the occult or the paranormal, whatever you want to call it, because they all have experiences when you're that close with your patients, and there's a lot of emotional, you know, relationships going on.
Hmm.
When they pass on, they do come and visit. So a lot of nurses do have those encounters, and I certainly had my good share of it working in hospice, etc.
Oh,
Then
well,
my
and not to
husband,
interrupt, but I wanna
yeah,
definitely have you back on because I'm working on a roundtable of different nurses talking about their experiences.
I would love that.
I would love that
Excellent.
because you
Yes.
take it from that hospice again, not to interrupt, but
No,
I
no,
will
no.
be reaching out to you on a date on that. But
Let's
anyways,
write
please
that down.
continue.
Yes, absolutely. So while I was doing that, my husband was running a very haunted bed and breakfast down in Ocala, Florida.
Okay.
It was noted as being one of the most haunted in the state of Florida. It was investigated by Ghost Adventures, etc. So I never really dove into that realm
Yeah.
seriously until I was there. And it was an 1890 gorgeous Victorian, just north of Orlando in Ocala, and we met the most wonderful people, and they were all intrigued about what a new concept, what we call haunted tourism.
Mhm.
And basically, we said, this is great, but we had a hard time surviving because we were great on the weekends. We were booked months
Yes.
ahead on the weekends, but most business people chose to stay at the Holiday Inn or the Marriott. Never would stay at a bed and breakfast that they do in England or they do in Ireland. We don't do that here. We don't honor these beautiful historic inns the way we do across the pond. But
Mhm.
regardless, I learned that I needed to reach out not just to others, but to colleagues in my field, those historic inns and properties that are just struggling to survive, because I knew with the haunted that brought in a segment of tourism or hospitality, I should call it,
Yes.
that could benefit them. So I
Mhm.
started this whole thing called Haunted Journeys, and then we started collaborating. And I wasn't making any money with that; it was just a little hobby I had on the side. From there stemmed our interest in getting a little bit of note, getting some attention to these properties. And we
Mhm.
did what they call National Ghost Hunting Day. And we are the proprietors of that title. And that was back about 9 years ago. In 20,
Wow.
yeah, 2016,
That
I think
long.
2015. Yes, exactly. And then from there, we said, well, we're going to have to do something on this, with National Ghost Hunting Day. What do we do? What about the
Mhm.
largest ghost hunt and have all these historic properties? Just basically do ghost hunts on this day. And we
Mhm.
started the world's largest ghost hunt. The very, very first one was in 2016, and it was very successful. The very first one. Of course, there was nothing proprietary about this. It's
Yeah.
basically a lot of good people coming together, showcasing their properties, the historic properties, and
Mhm.
those that loved the paranormal, the enthusiasts coming to support them. So it was a great concept. We kept doing that for a few years. Of course, the pandemic became an issue. And then from there, we sort of said, well, what are we going to do with all these people that we know out there? I knew people in Ireland, I knew people in England, I knew people, my gosh, in Australia. They were all over. I said, wouldn't it be nice? And I thought maybe why don't I start, a tour company that we do multi days across the globe to feature these properties. It's always with the intent, like you said, Miranda, and that just took me by the heart. You said all the proceeds go to these properties.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that is like the most glorious thing that you can do because, well, one of the
Mhm.
little mantras we say is the haunting is history wishing to be heard. But that history also has to be preserved because otherwise it'll mean
Yes.
bulldozer. And we've seen that too many times, haven't we, Miranda?
Mhm.
And it's sad. We lived it. We lived it, having that in
Yeah.
and knowing that we could not survive with just having a 30% occupancy rate, just
Mm.
because it was only good for the weekend. So we knew the
Yeah.
value of that, the importance of it, and there we go. So that's how I got here. I made some contacts, some connections, and the rest, pretty much the angels provided the path. And I'm so happy that we're, like I just said, on June 1st, we did incorporate in the state of Florida. So, did I say Florida? Ohio. Oh my God, my
Uh,
heart's still in Florida. Yeah, I'm in Ohio now. So most people don't retire in Ohio; they go to Florida. I'm the
that's
reverse.
true. You did the opposite.
I did the opposite. Yeah.
Um, so just to kinda okay, so looking at the comments and stuff over here and just wanna confirm there is issues with Facebook. I did go on to the page there
Yeah.
and, share the YouTube link on the Facebook,
Good girl.
because 'cause I'm not really sure why that is, it just didn't start the live on Facebook, which is really weird. So thank you all so much for hopping over to YouTube and watching it there. And if you don't mind, please let others know as well. I've tried to do that while we were introing here, but if you could let folks know that we are here still live on LinkedIn as well as on YouTube, and hopefully that'll bring some of our Facebook friends over. But we do have a question here from James Brady. He says, Maria, do you have more investigators or novice people on your tours?
It's a good blend. It's a good blend. And that's what makes it really exciting. I think everybody goes with the intent of doing like a really gigantic, big 10-day paranormal investigation. And in fact, we get more engaged with the culture, with the people. So it's not just the investigation that's important, it's what surrounds the investigation, what surrounds these haunted properties. Um, so we do get a little blend of both. It's an excellent question. Um, a lot of them leave their gadgets behind and they'll bring in their their senses, their just little things, little tools. For the most part, I've had a couple of them that have done it, but I think it's a lot of times they're afraid of going through TSA and getting their equipment pulled out in Paris, but whatever.
Do people travel with a lot of equipment? I know that's one of the things I've always worried about is flying with a lot of equipment.
And your sentiment is shared. A lot of folks prefer not to do that, and we found, it's interesting, and I think James, you'll love this story. Um, there's an interesting story that I have. We were in the oldest inn. It's called the Ancient Ram Inn in the UK, in England, and we were. I mean, the place is like from the 12th century. It's amazing. It's an amazing place, extremely noted for being extremely haunted. And we weren't getting a whole lot of activity. And what I don't remember exactly how we found out, but we did find out why we weren't having the activity. Is because we pulled out all our gadgets. We were all getting all hot and heavy with them, and they told us they were afraid of us because we had weapons. They
Oh,
thought our equipment
fascinating.
was weapons. Now you got to remember these are
Yeah,
century old phantoms, right? They're
yeah,
not used to seeing these Geiger counters and all this stuff, and they really felt that it was going to hurt them. So you go into these older ancient properties with a new look, and you have to use more like raw intuition, raw communication, and that's probably how you sort of get into their space and have them, especially when you have a foreign language, a dialect like we do,
yeah,
because we are foreigners to them.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Now, do you all typically have a translator in some of these places?
Yeah, we always have a local tour guide. So
Okay.
the only time we really do any a translator, of course, is when we go outside the UK or Ireland, like when we go to Romania, etc. I don't think that's as important. And
Yeah,
I think it's because the communication does. Yeah, I am not a medium and I'm not going to be an expert here. All I
yeah.
know is, information that I'm seeing in front of me. They communicate. They communicate whether
Wow.
we talk in English or whether we talk in Romanian or other in Germany when we were in German when we were in Germany. Another really incredible place we went to is a Czech, and that is
Oh,
an incredible city called Prague. And if no one has been to Prague, please put that on your bucket list. It is called the Europeans New Orleans. It's absolutely
oh,
gothic and beautiful, and they love their haunted. They absolutely respect their haunted, which is very unusual for a lot of European cities. So, in that particular place, we went to what they call Huska Castle, which is an hour north of Prague. And
oh.
it's considered the most darkest, one of the most darkest and most drenched castles in all of Eastern Europe. And we did a table tip um, um, ceremony, ritual with Frightfully Good out of Australia. And of course, they're talking Australian, we're talking American, and that table was
Yeah.
floating around the ballroom at the Huska Castle. So, I mean, it breached three languages. How
Wow.
incredible was that? Maybe that's why the table was going around the
Probably.
ballroom. But yeah, but it's those kind of experiences that make you appreciate, and that's what I've taken away from this. For the most part, is that culturally there's such a big influence on how the paranormal is presents itself, and in the way it's respected in each country. Mm.
Yeah. Well, and that was going to be my next question. Do you find that going to these different countries and to some of these amazing locations in these
Mhm.
countries, are they as open and accepting of their haunted history or haunting stories that come from there? Do they seem to be as accepting?
It depends on what country we're talking about. In Ireland, as you can probably suspect, they love their ghosts and they're proud of their ghosts. In fact, they're they're basically their culture is around the Irish spirit,
Okay.
and the she. and all the little gremlins that are around, and all the fairies around, the folk tales, they believe in fairies. And they
Okay.
have fairy trees that if you knock down a fairy tree, you basically are going to have a doomed life. And construction sites will work around a fairy tree, not to knock it down. So that's how
Wow.
extensive the the unseen is to Ireland. Then you go
Mhm.
to the other side where I can say we had the most resistance was Italy. I'm not sure
Oh,
why, because it is a very Catholic country, as
yeah.
we know, and the Vatican is there, and of course, it is the capital of exorcisms, isn't it?
Yeah.
And yet, they're very, very resistive to anything that's considered haunted or discussion of the haunt. Germany was a little bit also a little bit on the conservative side as far as that's concerned. And then Romania, it's interesting because in Romania, it's more for witchcraft. It's more
Oh,
about the vampire and the witchcraft that elicits interest in the occult, and that is very strong there. The witchcraft and even the vampire, you know, theories or the stories, etc., um, are very, very strong there. And the ghosts and phantoms, they're okay, but that's just like a little distraction. They're more into,
wow.
like I said, more of the Romanian witchcraft. Um, I'm trying to think of other countries in Egypt, which is a little bit more on the ancient side.
Okay.
It's not about phantoms, it's not about ghosts, but it's about the spirituality coming from the deities, from the gods and the goddesses. It has a completely different flavor. And there's some theories that believe that you will never meet a ghost that's over 1,000 years old. In fact, some say even
Hmm.
500 years old. And that's
Wow.
why in America we have so many hauntings because we relatively have a young country here, don't we?
Mhm. Absolutely.
But when you go to ancient Egypt, it's a different story. The thickness there, the spiritual thickness, I call it, is
Yeah.
more into a level that you can't explain. It almost like freezes time. I don't know. I mean, we were in places on private visitations and private access into the Great Pyramid and even King Tut's tomb. We were there for 2 hours
Wow.
all by ourselves. Of course, we went at 4 o'clock in the morning, so there's a reason why we're by ourselves.
Right.
But anyway, but that it wasn't like we were. I think the group was. I don't want to say frustrated, but
Mhm.
almost like in awe how they shifted the what's where the almost like the the interaction with spirituality was not our typical phantom. It's not a ghost that you capture. It's almost a very deep, a very intense feeling that you get there. I don't know how to explain it,
Wow.
but it's quite different. Mhm.
I would imagine so. And I
Yeah.
find that extremely fascinating about just how the different cultures are open or perhaps in some instances not open. When you talk about Ireland, here in the Appalachian Mountains, there's a very, very strong Scots Irish background. And so the
Mhm.
folklore and stuff in this area goes back, a lot of the people have that Irish descent. And so everything in the folklore is either around death, bad luck,
Yes.
or those spirits, and keeping essentially the having the horseshoes hanging over the door, the brick dust, all the stuff to essentially keep the spirits out or the bad spirits. So that's really fascinating to think about, the origins of all that
Yeah.
and everything. Just kind of looking over here at the comments again. Deb is talking about how she'd been to Romania on the Dracula Castle tour on Halloween. They were
Yes.
definitely into the spirits.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, I bet that was a fantastic
Yes.
tour.
Yeah. It was. Was that recently, Deb, or I don't. I don't know if she was with our tour last year. Last year we went with Grant Wilson, and that was
Oh,
quite an experience. Now this year it's going to be even more amazing. It's sold out, guys. I'm sorry to. Well, actually, they may have two spots. So if anybody wants to go to Romania for Halloween this year, there may be just two spots
well,
open
let's
that just
pull that
happened.
up right quick and kind of
Yeah,
talk about that because
yeah.
maybe we can get you some bookings before
Oh,
the
if anybody's smart, they'll jump on this because I will tell you typically what the what the Dracula party, the annual very famous Halloween party in Dracula's castle, which is called Braun Castle in Braun, and it's usually includes they've got like a big tent outside. It's not in the castle. Now you go in there and you do have you go through a tour that's incredibly dressed up like Dracula and Halloween. It's inside is it's just an incredible treat to go through,
oh
but you
man.
only walk through it. The party is down the hill on the grass grounds, and they have these tents, etc. Now this year, that party, I believe, I don't have my calendar in front of me, but I think it's November 2nd, which is
Mm.
after Halloween. Well, we already had made a commitment to our travelers that we were going to have it on the 28th, which was the day of the Saturday before Halloween, which is typically when they have their party. Okay. Well, we were in a tizzy and we turned that little lemon into a lemonade. We are actually having a dinner and our party inside the castle. And it's
Oh,
only for 100. Well, no, there's not 100 in our tour, but there's three other tours that are joining us. So it's essentially a private party inside in this candelabra lit castle.
oh,
And dinner is offered. That's an extra cost, but it's very worth it at the castle. So we get to roam through the castle. You get to party in the castle. You get to eat in the castle. And it's with Aaron Sagers. He's the one taking us this year. So that is
okay.
quite a thrill. And I'm going to give you another thrill on this tour. For the last 3 years, the original um, castle, the real Dracula castle.
Hmm.
And oh my God, I'm closing my eyes because I'm trying to remember its name. If somebody in the audience would help this old lady remember the name of the real Come on, there's a contest going on. Let's go. Um, there is, oh, I can't think of it. But anyway, it's all the way clear across the mountains. And it sits up on a big mountain ledge, and it's where Vlad the Tepes actually built this castle. This was his castle. In fact, it's really not even a castle; it's a fortress that he lived in, and that's being opened for after renovation in the last 4 years, and we are going to be there. It's our first
Wow.
tour, so not only are we having an actual Dracula party experience inside Brown Castle, but
Oh, wow.
it's Paneri Castle. It's Paneri Castle. We're actually going to go to Paneri Fortress, and that's the one at 1,600 steps to reach up to the top. It's a magnificent view of all the mountains surrounding it, and it's again where Vlad Tepes built and lived until he was ran off from the Turks. But you know, it's interesting. You talk about Vlad the Tepes the Impaler, and you'll see that's where he used to impale people and just put them on outside the castle to intimidate the enemy from coming inside, saying this is going to happen to you if you invade my land. But unfortunately, it didn't work in one case, and he did have to escape his leaving his wife behind, and she committed suicide. So she threw herself into the cliffs, into the mountains. So there's a lot of tragedy involved with this castle. And it's Paneri Castle. Look it up. It's phenomenal. We're gonna go up there.
Wow.
So
That
yeah,
is so
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
And so she may have a couple tickets left. Um,
Yes, yes.
we've got the link. We've got all of this in the show notes.
Thank
We are
you.
on her
Yeah,
mysterious adventures tours
yeah.
.com. So let's talk about a few more of these tours. I mean, because I mean, these are Oh, I mean, I'm extremely impressed at the offerings and stuff
Thank
that
you.
you all have. Um, now, is it different whenever you're kind of setting up these essentially paranormal adventure type tours?
Mhm.
Is it when you put together one of these tours? um I'm trying to think of really how I'm trying to ask. Do you find that you get any pushback from any of the places when you're doing that, as far as because it is paranormal themed, or or do you find that people are looking for more of uh, more centered type tours like this?
Very good question. Most of the places, like when we do craft our own itineraries,
Okay.
and we try to load them up with the most haunted in that area
Okay.
of the country. For instance, now this tour is sold out. The one in Ireland for Halloween.
Hmm.
We're going to be at Leap Castle on Halloween
Oh,
night with
wow.
with Grant Wilson. So you talk about an experience there. That's been sold out for months, but they love the haunted. They make their living out of the haunted. And we try to include those very unique experiences that most typical um, tour companies will not take you to. Um, Now, we'll take you to the Blarney Castle, for instance, which is haunted.
Hmm.
It's got a magical witching and fairy trail that you go to its woods. It's phenomenal. I personally love to go to the woods and not up the castle to kiss the stone. But
Yeah.
we're not typical tourists, are we? So
No.
I try to get our accommodations that does have a tinged history of hauntings. And I am upfront with the kind of group that we are. Most of the time, they welcome us. It just again depends on the country we go to, right? In
Yeah.
Ireland, they put that porch light for us. They love that. We get a little bit more resistance. We go into the Eastern Europe. But generally speaking, we have never been disrespected or asked not to discuss the occult. I can only remember one place that we went in, and I always try to say, tell us a little bit of a spooky story about this place, when we
Mhm.
go to the tour guide. And they usually cooperate. They usually tell us a couple of spooky stories or not. um, but there was one place that said in Romania, I still remember, he says, nope, I will not discuss that because I consider that not appropriate here. So,
Oh,
but that was the
wow.
only type of resistance, one in hundreds that we've done. So it's not
Yeah.
bad. It's not bad. Hmm.
Wow. Let's see. And again, if you all have any questions for Maria about any of her tours or anything specific, please put them over here in the comment section. And I'm actually going to. Oh, and Deb says she was in Romania in
Deb,
2016.
wasn't that fantastic? Romania is so beautiful. And the food, Deb, what about that food? Is absolutely fabulous. It really is. The people are very humble. They're good people. We actually, Deb, I'm not sure if you know of one of the things that we do in Romania. Every time we go there, we meet up with some witches, some authentic witches,
Oh, wow.
at the witches pond. It's a pond that truly is in Bucharest. It truly is called the witches pond. It's according to again, legends. There's no verification. This is where Vlad Tepes was beheaded. So
Oh,
it's got a lot of mystery behind it. Um, they don't know how animals. They don't. You never see animals drinking from this pond. Others have said that when they do, or people have gone into the pond, they've never come out. I don't know. It's a
wow.
very mysterious pond, but we have rituals with our Romanian witches there at night holding the flames. It is absolutely marvelous. Again, we will be doing that for our Halloween Romania tour. So yeah, Romania is wonderful. For those that have gone to it, no matter whether you do a paranormal tour or not, it's absolutely a magical, magical country.
Wow. So
Mhm.
now how many people do you all usually book up on your tours?
I like my minimum just in order to make the tour group
Uh-huh.
work It's
Mhm.
24. My
Okay.
max is usually 32. Now we breached that a little bit with Halloween because
Yeah.
that is our most popular tour. And people know that and they're excited to be there anyway. So, but we'll never, ever, ever go over 40. And that's to
Okay.
me is almost too much of a stuffing. I will not normally do that only when it's a special situation and we have enough hand to help, with the larger groups. But it's a middle-sized group. It's
Mhm.
we've had some that were smaller grouped,
Mhm.
and they work really well. We have what we call mini mysteries. We're having one in Mount Shasta in Northern California coming up in September for the Labor Day weekend. And that's going to be one that's mixed with retreat with Sarah Lemos and Jody
Ah,
Dan. And Jody Dan, who's an angel, she's an angel whisperer. So that's
there we
going to
go.
be part of a haunted trail from Sacramento into the magical, mystical Mount Shasta. And if anyone's never been to Mount Shasta, another bucket list item you need to put in there is an absolutely incredible piece of land. They say Sedona is very magical. Mm-mm.
Mhm.
Mount Shasta. And it's so unknown for it. And that's what makes it even more special because it
Wow.
is so sort of secluded and it's gorgeous with all the big mountains surrounding it. It's known for lemurs. Those are they're extraterrestrial beings. And these again are all legends. So it's got a little bit of
Yeah.
the UFOs, a little bit of the cryptoids, and a lot of ghosts. So it's a wonderful place to go.
And we talked a little bit about Mount Shasta last week whenever I
Did you?
had yes, whenever I had Steve Stockton on because some
Mhm.
of the stories of his missing in the national parks actually centers around. I think he actually has a book or two out on Mount Shasta. So
I need to connect with him. Yes,
yes, yes,
absolutely. Yes, yes.
fascinating individual.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And let's see here. Coachella's Valley, or excuse me, Coachella Valley's Paranormal Study says it's beautiful there. I used to live there and
Mhm.
just got into contact with a great team, paranormal team from Shasta. That's awesome. Um,
Mhm.
now you work with some great hosts on these tours. Let's talk a little bit about some of the people that uh, do that you work with on some of these different trips.
Well, I've already mentioned a few of them. Sarah Lemos, she's taking us to Scotland. And if anyone's not met Sarah Lemos, oh my God, such a gifted psychic medium. She's absolutely incredible. And she's taking us to Scotland. And that one is in September of next year. And that's going to be, we call it the Witches and Phantoms of Scotland because we actually go through a whole circle that goes around Scotland. And even up to the Highlands, starting in Edinburgh and then just going into St. Andrews, dipping into the Highlands, and then coming around again into what they call Stirling. Beautiful tour. The reason this was a spectacular tour is because it follows all the spots where all the accused witches were tried and executed. And as you
Oh
know,
wow!
back in the 1600s, that was a really dark history for Scotland. And a lot of that their culture is influenced by that history from back then. So to be able to, and I can tell you right now, we have such incredible evidence in the places that we went to.
Oh,
We've already had this tour. We do hook up with Lenny Lowe, who's one of the experts of the witchcrafts of Scotland. He's written several books, and he just opened up a witchcraft museum. And
oh
so,
wow!
very, very, it's an incredible tour. So that's what Sarah Lemos, Grant Wilson is taking us to Greece. Oh my gosh, talk
Oh, that
about
sounds fantastic.
talk about Opa. Yeah, this is a phenomenal tour. This is actually going to happen. Excuse me, and also in September of this year. So we are offering this. What makes it special? This particular tour, I like to think that every tour is special, but they all have a fingerprint that's extremely important. And this one is a celebration of what they call a, I can never say this, the illusion mysteries. The illusion mysteries are thousands of years ago, and they have an influence of deities,
Okay.
where it all started with these two goddesses. And they were actually cults that were created, secret cults. And then they went in and they did these ceremonies and these sacrifices, etc. A very powerful experience. And we're actually going to recreate that to
Oh,
the
wow.
T, to the T. We have a priestess, and she's a psychic medium from that lives in Athens, is Greek, that will be leading us, our group, into these rituals. And we're actually going to be doing some chants and very orchestrated procedures. And again, that's what the if you, if you Google that, I invite you to do that. Is the illusion mysteries, and that's an incredible experience. Of course, we're going to, that's an 11-day trip. And it goes through Mykonos and Athens, and it goes to
Wow.
all the city of the dead. We're going to go to one of the most haunted caves, the Valley Caves in Greece, which is incredibly haunted. So that's a very special thing. And that's again with Grant Wilson.
And
And yeah.
close to the tour are people able to sign up?
Um,
Do you
I,
have a cutoff?
I actually asked that question to my operator in Greece today, because we're getting really close to selling out.
Yeah.
About 2 weeks prior, so right
Okay.
to maybe a week into September. Now, this is the only tour that we're doing this just because it's so challenging. It's only 3 months away, and
Yeah.
most people say, "Oh, well, I don't have a few $3,000. That's about what it's going to
Mhm.
cost you." To go on this trip, we will give you a 12-month payment plan with no interest.
Nice.
So you take whatever you purchase, divide it by 12. We don't tack on any interest, and you can pay it even after your tour. So it's a little souvenir you get to bring back home with you on the payment plans.
Nice.
But you'll remember that trip every single time, every single month that goes by because you'll never forget this. Um, we change lives. You know, Miranda, if you can, if if you could ask me, and I invite you to ask me, what is the most profound takeaway from this the company I have formed?
Mhm.
And I will tell you, it's not all the beautiful places I've been to, or the legends and the mysteries, or even the cultures and people we've met out there. It's the relationships that we create with our travelers.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm talking about. When people get together that are like minded, okay, and they share and joy and they share and they break bread, and they're with each other for 10, 11 days, it becomes almost a transformational experience. And it is probably the most, I still get so many emails and pings and texts from people saying, Maria, that tour you took me on changed my life. And I'm not exaggerating. They do, because when you open yourself up in a new country and you're exposed to so many incredible places, you do a transformation. And with your brothers and sisters on that trip together, it becomes something that you will never forget. And that's probably my biggest and most satisfying takeaways from our company.
I
That
love that.
I can do that. It's a truth, though. It's an absolute truth. And I never expected that. I thought it was going to be, oh my God, they're going to love these haunted castles and all these wonderful food that we're going to eat and all this. It was they brought that gift with them, and they embellished it and they created. So it's yeah, it's pretty cool. It's
Oh,
pretty
that's
cool.
fantastic.
Yeah.
And I know Countess de Carlos says several of us from Romania 2023 still keep in touch, and we even meet up a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yes, I thank you so much. I appreciate you being here, and sharing that experience. Yeah, you unfortunately you got to party downstairs, right? Like, and you didn't get to see the Paneri Fortress. We're adding that this year. So, Countess, I think you need to come back and do a version two. What about that?
And she
Yeah.
says, "This is Jessica."
Okay. Oh, Jessica. Okay. I love all these secret names. Yeah,
And
Jessica.
and you're exactly right about that because I saw
Mhm.
that this past weekend just on the motorcycle ride that we were doing. We had people from all over. And what I loved about it was that it was people who had never taken these roads that I took them on. And so I was watching folks before we started the ride, and all these people, they were going up talking to each other, introducing themselves, and kind of talking about their rides and talking about, where they were coming from. And it is whenever you're doing these trips and going into these different situations, in your case with going to these into these immersing yourself in the culture and doing the paranormal investigations, you're putting yourself into a different situation, kind of like us on the motorcycles there. We're putting ourselves, we're essentially, riding in this train of motorcycles, and you really get to know the people pretty well in a short period of time. So
Mhm, mhm.
that's really cool.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. I think it's because you're kind of an edgy tour. You're not a typical
Yeah.
tour. It's the bike, it's the experience of the wind against your face, and and just like exhilaration that you have, and you bring it to another level, to places that are just so incredibly rich with history, rich with power, with the spiritual power.
Yeah.
It just brings it to another level. So what I'm talking. You take that and multiply it by 10 or 11 days,
Absolutely.
it becomes out of this world. Yeah. Yeah.
Terry actually has a question here. Says, do you find that single travelers have a better experience sharing a room or a single room? I have traveled many times outside of the United States and have stayed at hostels and met many good people.
Mhm, mhm. It's just a personal preference, Terry. Some people prefer to, have their privacy, and not share a room with a friend. Or sometimes other people say, "Hey, I'll match me up," as long as we have rules about matchups, of course. But
Mhm.
it's a personal preference. It's based on what you feel comfortable with. Which brings up the point of solo travelers, Terry, because a lot of people do ask me, it says, is it okay if I come by myself? It is safe. And it says, you could not be safer, because you are surrounded by love, and you're surrounded by people that will care for you, and you're surrounded by family. You will join a family when you do this. So you will not have any experiences. So we've never, in fact, we have a lot of repeat travelers that do come in solo. So again, Terry, it's an absolute, personal preference, just how you want to, you know, how do you want to sleep at night?
And absolutely, Deb, true. Motorcycles and paranormal make friends everywhere. I,
Yeah.
f- I feel like when you're on a bike or whenever you're doing a paranormal investigation,
Mhm.
you meet friends. It's like you're constantly either talking about your investigation, talking about your bike, or you don't know a stranger whenever it comes to that. Just the best folks. Do you and you may have answered this, and do you get a lot of repeat, travelers that, they'll go on one trip, next thing you know, they're coming back for different ones?
Yeah, we do. I would say about 40% of our people are repeat, which is pretty high in the industry.
Yeah, yeah,
We have people. I mean, these are not 1 day trips. They're a little bit more,
yeah,
expensive, and then there's some flights involved as well. But that being said, yeah, a lot of repeaters. One of the things that, I mean, I've got one gal that's on her, guy that's on his fourth trip. Another was on the third trip, and it's
wow,
amazing. I've only been doing it for 2 months, 2 years, a few months. So
yeah,
they're really concentrating on them, and they again is just they create a cult. I hate to call it a cult, but it's almost like a cult. Um, but that being said, a lot of them also, interesting enough, Miranda, 50% of my travelers are new travelers. They have to get a passport,
okay,
so they've never traveled abroad, and so we actually are the ones that sort of welcome them in, and we do a really good job welcoming folks in. We do 4 Zoom calls before you go on your trip to prepare you. What kind of currency issues are you going to have? Where do you change a currency? How do you communicate when you're out there? What plugs do you use? What should you pack? What's the food like over there? What are the conditions there? There's a lot of things that you have to really be prepared for. And we
Hmm.
do just that. We give you 4 1-hour Zoom calls. You can drop in or just listen to the recording later on. Another thing that we also do is that we do give you a portal. So
Okay.
everyone that's in that trip, that particular trip will have a portal and they'll have information about, for instance, we're going to Peru
Hmm.
in July. And, one of the things about Peru you have to be careful with, besides going to the beautiful Machu Picchu, is the height. We're 10,000
Oh,
feet
yeah.
above elevation. There is a height and elevation sickness that I have to be worried about. So I'm preparing them on how to prevent that syndrome from happening. So there's a lot of preparation, and the more I prepare them before the trip, the better that trip is going to be because they'll
Hmm.
know each other because on these Zoom calls we're all talking to each other, so they
Yeah.
already have that bonding going on, and then they get acquainted with some of the things that they should be prepared for before they go.
And that's a fantastic way to do that,
It is.
because
It is.
just gearing up. Plus, I'm sure that builds excitement too, knowing that you've got this great trip coming up and
Yeah.
you're gathering all this information about it and meeting the people you're going to be traveling with. I think that's cool. And I got to say, I really love your website, how
Thank
you
you.
have everything classified,
Hmm.
for whether you're looking for a specific country or whether you're looking for a specific type of experience. This has done a great job of breaking it down, and you truly do have something for everyone.
Yeah, because there's some folks that love the ufology of the cryptoids, and they're not interested in the phantoms. Some people love Harry Potter. It's all about the
Yeah.
fantasies,
Yeah.
or Doctor Who. So we're going to be introducing those in 2026. So it's a little
Ah.
bit of getting, exactly. There's the witches ceremony there. Isn't that awesome?
Oh,
That's in
wow.
Romania. Yeah.
Okay.
It's all about what we have in common with all those categories, Miranda, is the fact that they're all outside the box. They all stretch and they challenge our imagination. And there is oh my God, there's Romania there. How beautiful is that? There's
Mm.
Dracula's castle. Yeah,
Wow.
so it's all about again not it's a test of your spiritual connection, whether you're looking for ufology or you're looking for cryptoids. It's being able to use all of your 6 senses and get immersed into a new culture, and that's what makes it really incredible. There you go. There's the witches ceremony in the witches pond. There's Grant Wilson and Rihanna.
Oh, wow.
Hmm.
So what do you have? We're getting up here to the top of the hour, and again, I
Yeah.
wanna thank everyone that's watching and that's put in your questions and your comments. What do you have coming up, Maria, that you would like to talk a little bit about?
Well, there's so much. I think you need to secure 4 hours for us next time, Miranda. Can we
That
do that?
sounds good. That sounds
Okay.
good.
Okay. There's one that we just announced today. I don't know if everybody saw it or not. Please join my
Okay.
Facebook page, Mysterious Adventures Tours.
I'm gonna pull that up
And
now.
yeah, thank you for doing that.
Mhm.
We just announced today that we're doing a Salem Halloween. We've had it up in the market for a while, but we added something incredibly special. My dear, 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 beautiful friend, Andrea Perron, is going to be joining us on this trip and
Oh.
taking us to her house, the Conjuring House. So everybody that's listed on this that's already booked for this particular trip, they're going bonkers because a lot of them are coming from Australia. So
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
so
Okay.
they're really happy because they've never met Andrea. They've not been there. It is. They've not been to the Conjuring House. So it's going to be a good thrill. So that's special. Of course, I mentioned the September trip to, to Greece. Who
Mhm.
does not want to do OPA with Grant Wilson? So there we
Right?
go, and join up on the Illusions Mysteries. And then one that I kind of typed on to, and you did a preview on that last week, our trip to Mount Shasta. And that's only 6 days. It's a short mistress trip. It goes to Sacramento into the most haunted trails of gold country into Mount Shasta for a retreat. So it's a really, really pretty thing. And there's my Jody. Jody Den and Sarah Lemos will be part of that. So yeah, yeah, those are the ones from 2024 that will, get us into 2025, and then we'll just keep adding them on. But the whole thing is, let's not forget why we're doing this, folks. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's a living, it's a good living. I I I made a better living being a nurse. There's no secret about that, right, Miranda?
Yeah,
There's not too much in what we do. We're triggered and charged by the love for what we do, especially the return of all the relationships we built, as
mhm.
well as a historic preservation that we do for our country, for other,
Yeah,
not just our country, but other countries as well.
yeah.
And I'll tell you, there are places like the Huska Castle that we talked about with the table tipping that we did.
Yeah.
Most people don't know about it, and it really needs a lot of help. And we were able to give them a sizable donation. So, and then give them
That's
recognition,
wonderful.
which is more important, because after we leave, the money has to be, refunneled in, and that's when
Mhm.
we bring attention from the public to them, right, Miranda?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the thing too. I mean, 'cause, I spent I spent 21 years working in corporate America as a marketing director, and, it's like, it people are grossly mistaken if they think that, owning a location or, being involved in the paranormal is something. I mean, that money has to stretch really far, and
Yes.
paranormal tourism is honestly what allows us at the jail to be able to keep the doors open.
Yeah,
If we
yeah.
relied on the daytime tours, we there's no way we wouldn't make, our really even make our rent for the month on
Mhm,
the
mhm,
daytime tours. So
mhm, mhm.
it's the paranormal investigators that really help, and it's such a unique form of tourism. I know my business partner has conducted a very extensive study on paranormal and dark tourism, and it if all the places that she reached out to, if they even considered, or had the opportunity to do these after dark tours, I mean, people would have access to some of the most amazing locations, but for whatever reason,
Absolutely, yes.
yeah, for whatever reason, they aren't touching that,
There's a little
there's
hesitation, there
yeah,
is, but
yeah,
I think it's becoming more comfortable for them.
yeah.
And that's one of the things again, the project I started with the world's largest ghost hunt. And
Mhm.
the whole thing was to introduce these properties, that there is a segment that
Yeah.
is not just on Halloween, that will bring you funding, that will pay for your roofs, that will
Yeah.
pay for, the plumbing leak in the back room. And these things cost money for these
Mhm.
properties. And
Mhm.
my experience and all the thank yous I received, and to me, they're just absolutely blessings, from
Mhm.
properties. Said, Maria, if it wasn't for the world's largest ghost hunt in 2017, we
Mhm.
wouldn't have been known. And one of them is
Yeah.
Old Barbara Wynn in Wisconsin. They're doing extremely well. They've been able to recuperate a lot of losses because we introduced them into the paranormal explorers world. And it's a funding for them. They need that funding, Miranda.
They do, and,
Mhm.
and that's the paranormal community really helps get the word out about some of these places
Yes,
too.
yes.
And the interest sometimes, I mean, I'm a history nerd, but we do have a lot of people that they might not set foot in some of these locations if they didn't know that this place was haunted. We all have our
Mhm,
preferences for what we like. So,
mhm, mhm,
so it is wonderful. You are doing an amazing job with,
mhm.
what you do and all that for the paranormal community. And it's just been wonderful getting to know you and
Oh.
learn more about what you're doing with these tours.
And I like that idea of having a biking tour in the middle of Ireland. What do you think?
Oh, there you go.
Let's keep that conversation going.
That would be
I think that
fantastic.
will be the first and only
That would be
that's been ever
wonderful.
done. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And folks, I highly recommend go check out,
Mhm.
Mysterious Adventures Tours. We've got a lot of links in the show notes because, Maria does an amazing job of getting the word out about what she's doing. She's got her
Thank
Instagram
you.
page, her Facebook page, her website, and she'll keep you up to date on all these different tours and stuff that she's got going on. So go on, subscribe to her pages, check her out, and hey, you'll find a tour that you're going to enjoy. And so
Mm.
check it out because I know I see about 5 on there that I'm interested in myself.
Yeah. And going back, and I know we're at the top of the level of the hour, but I'm going to just say one thing. When people are resistant properties about being showcased as a haunted or a supernatural property, point them to one direction, to the most successful property in Romania, which is what? Dracula's castle.
Yeah.
Dracula's castle has nothing to do with Dracula. Dracula has never been there. In fact, it's questionable whether Vlad Tepes the Impaler was even there. But
Mm,
they own the name. They created, the image, and
yeah.
they are the most successful, castle probably in all of Eastern Europe because of that. So there's
Yeah.
something to be said about how the paranormal, supernatural tourism will sustain companies. I mean, will sustain properties.
Yeah.
And you have a great example there. They would
Absolutely.
it would be just a bunch of ruins if it wasn't for that concept being born one day. Yeah.
That's very true. That's a very good
Hmm.
point.
Hmm.
And so, like I said, thank you so
Yeah.
much, Maria, for coming on tonight. And if you
Thank you
will,
for having
as
me
we're
on, Miranda. Thank you. Yes.
absolutely, and as we're wrapping things up, just go ahead and push your sites, push people what directions to go to, the different social media sites that you have.
Forbes Mysterious Adventures Tours. That's our fan page. From that, we also have the same on Instagram. We are also on Pinterest, and of course, we're on YouTube. We're just all over the kind of all over the place. Join our mailing list. That's the best place to go, because eventually we'll hit that button that you want to come to. And if you really want to go on a tour, I'm the one that picks up the phone. I'm the one that makes it happen, and I want you to be there. We'll make it happen. So there are no bucket lists with me. Let's just do it. I mean, don't
Love
wait
it.
until you're 64 years old to do this. Let take advantage of it now when we're young. Yes.
I
Thanks,
love that.
Miranda.
No bucket list.
So
Thank
that's
you,
right. No
Maria.
bucket list. Thank you so much, Miranda. God bless you and
Yes.
God bless all your listeners.
Yes, God bless you, Maria. And thank you all so much over there in the chat room for your questions, your comments,
Ah,
and for most importantly, spending your time with us this evening. Since, we say it all the time that time is one of the most precious things, and it is an honor that you have chosen to spend your time with us. So we will be on next week at 9 p.m. Eastern. Just again, waiting on some confirmations from next week's guest, but we will be on next week at 9 p.m. Eastern and also at 7 p.m. over on the historic Scott County Jail page. So come check out some of our tours that we've got at the jail, and check out the jail page if you haven't already, because we will be making some more announcements on some of these motorcycle tours, and we hope you'll join us on those. So until next week, I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful night and a wonderful week, and we will see you then. Bye, everyone.